solution in customer service. I don't think it's one thing. I mean, it is very important to me that what I'm doing has got an ethical basis. And I have found it challenging over the years that a certain amount of what we sell isn't what people would think of when they think of, a purely 100% ethical, safe product. And so I would come back to talking about my inspiration of being in this world, as most people experience it, with the view of transforming it. That's probably my biggest inspiration, because I have been a bit of an environmentalist, and I have thought to myself, wouldn't I be better going and doing something very pure? Not that, I don't know if you can ever find anything that's 100% pure, but I mean, it has crossed my mind, and it does continue to cross my mind actually. But while I feel that something is happening, we're moving something forward to try and see, is it possible to transform the world that we're in, rather than go off and set up some ideal situation that a lot of people will not have access to, actually, then I'm willing to give it a shot to transform the world we're in. And that's only possible through working with like-minded people.
In what way, then, on a day-to-day level, does doing what you do feel like you're changing the world?
So in my everyday work, how might I feel that I'm changing the world? Yeah, on a day-to-day level.
That could mean your attitude. It doesn't have to be exactly like how you pick up the phone. But how is it that vision informs your life on a day-to-day level, given what you're working with on an immediate level, which, as you say, isn't necessarily. Some people would quibble with whether selling this stuff is changing the world.
Of course, yeah.
And yet somehow it must be the case that you do feel that motivation alive in you day to day.
Yeah.
So what's the alchemy? How?
Yeah. I think that the alchemy comes from the very conflict. I mean, I do feel a conflict. I feel a conflict between the actual, what we actually sell, and that we are a business. I mean, many people who take on a spiritual practice choose to become alternative therapists or doctors, and I mean, you can see that that's a very clear, pure, direct approach. So sometimes it can feel like, am I just getting my hands dirty or something? But I don't myself believe that the world can be changed through the people who have got enough heart and intelligence going off and just selecting those particular careers, to be honest. And I've found myself in this situation. I've got some skill and experience that I've built up in this situation, and it's part of my inspiration and ideal that if other people have to do this, then I'm going to do it too. And while enough people are willing to do it, let's see if we can transform it. But it may get to a point where I think, oh, this isn't working anymore. So I'm alive to that. I'm, week to week, probably day to day. And I think that the fire, if you like, the alchemy comes out of that tension, creative conflict. How is this changing something for the better? And I think it's not something that I necessarily plan. I mean, I want to have a positive influence. It's more like staying awake to what your real values are. And then when situations arise naturally during the day, coming up with a response that isn't just like a script. It's come from having really allowed what you deeply value to come into contact with the situation that you're in and seeing what happens. It's a bit more spontaneous than having it all worked out. But it might come out in a conversation. It might come out in a conversation with a customer, where I could do the standard business thing, and I don't. But neither do I forget that I'm part of a business that needs to make money. So it's how do you bring those things together? You want to give a human response, but at the same time it is a business. So it's allowing those values and experience to inform that communication make it something more.
Can you tell us a story?
A story? Oh, I have to be careful here because I don't want to upset any wholesale customers. Yeah. Well, although we do work in wholesale customer service, sometimes we get contacted by people who are customers of Evolution that come into the shops in Evolution. And there was one particular couple in Brighton who contacted us because they had broken their mugs that they'd bought in Evolution of a particular design, and there were none left. And they were very important to them because they'd been so inspired by this pattern, designed originally by Sukasidi, that they had painted their VW camper van exactly like the design of this mug. So they contacted us not with a great deal of hope, but feeling optimistic in some way that maybe someone could respond to them. And we were able to, through our sales and customer service and the buying team, contact our supplier and get a sample set of 6 made up for them from the old design and sent over with a shipment that we were getting from that supplier. So they got a set of 6, like a custom set of 6 that matched their van. So I think when I got that request, it was just wanting to respond to people's creativity, actually. I thought it was lovely what they'd done. So that's a more retail customer experience.
Do you live in a community?
Yes, I live in a community of 3, which is not what people would have thought in the past when they said community in the traditional community. But I live with 2 other people who are Buddhists who actually also work for Windhorse.
And does that work, to live in, to work here and to go home and work with people who also work here? Does that feel like a kind of total package, or do you sometimes wish you could just have another life after 5:30?
Myself, I've had a fair bit of experience of communities. I've lived in other Windhorse communities in Cambridge that were bigger than the one that I'm in now, and I've lived with my partner. I've lived on my own, so I've had a good range of experiences in that area. How I'm living now is completely chosen. This is my preference. I could have lived in other ways, but I've chosen to live with 2 friends who also work here in a smaller size community. What does that give me as opposed to living another way? Well, I'm a great believer that if you bring together like-minded people, something mysterious can happen, some alchemy, and that it's at its most vital and alive when it happens in an organic way. In order for that to happen, you have to be spending enough time with each other for that to happen. So that's my approach really, whether it's living with other people or working with them, that we have a project or a situation that brings us together in a natural way, where we can spark off of each other, and through our own individual inspiration, something will manifest. So.
And when you lived before in bigger communities?
That's a bit of a different experience, to live in a bigger community. And I'm also going a little bit back in time here to when the situation in Cambridge was more following the semi-monastic ideal, as you would say. I think living in a bigger community gives you more opportunity for formal practice. I would say that, and especially if you're new to that or newer